Hello. Today I'll show you how to make a map including all proper map elements. Now before we get started though, I do want to mention you should think of what your map will be used for. The way you arrange these map elements will change depending on how your map is used. So for example, if it's a standalone image that takes up the entire page, we can make some text smaller. If, however, it's going to be embedded into a page on a document, then we might want to leave out some information altogether when making the map and just put that in as a caption. Or we might resize certain items like the legend to make them more legible, things like that. So you really have to think of where your map is going to be used. Now let's just get started. So I'm just going to focus on the proper map elements. We're not going to worry too much about, proper colors or things like that here, because obviously we can, select some better colors. So it's just going to be proper map elements. So the first thing we want to do when we pull in our data into ArcMap is select a proper projection for it. So we're going to go here, View, in Data Frame Properties, and your projection is going to vary depending on where your data is from in the world. And you can look this up online. In my case, I'm going to be working with NAD 1983, UTM Zone 17N, because my data is from the city of Toronto. So once we have that projected, we can then rotate it to better fit on a page. So we do that with the data frame tools. So again, you right click anywhere in the top gray toolbar and you can select data frame tools, and it will be this little toolbar here. So we can select rotate data frame, and we're just going to manually adjust it here. You're just going to eyeball it, doesn't have to be too accurate. And then from here we can go into our layout view. And you can see by default the layout is set as a portrait. So because Toronto is wider than it is tall, we're going to adjust that to landscape view. So we're going to File, Page and Printer Setup, Landscape, and select OK. And then we're just going to adjust it here, again, very roughly. And then we're going to add in our title. Now, rather than using the title tool, we're just going to put in text, because no matter what, it changes anyways. So we're just going to put in a title, Toronto Schools Census Tracts. Again, not going to worry about the title too much, because it's just rough. Next, we're going to want to align our map elements to sort of center them on the page. So while this looks okay, let's say they were totally skewed off. What we would want to do then is select both map elements, and you need to have two here selected at once. So you're going to select your first one, hold down Shift, and select the second one so that both are highlighted. Right click, you're going to select Align, and first of all, align to margins, and this will align the map elements to the page. And then go right click again, Align, and align to center. And there you go. Now your map and title are nice and centered. Next, what we're going to do is add in some guides, and these are going to help us to just sort of organize the different map elements on our page. So again, I'm going to roughly put 1.5 here, 1.5 there. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. And from here on, I'm going to add some other guides. Here, I'm going to adjust this down. And from here, we can start working on the map elements. So just make this larger. Okay, apply, there we go, and recenter this. So next we are going to add in the legend. So again, go to Insert, Legend, and we're just going to put in all of the items that are available. Take out Legend because your legend should be fairly self-explanatory. It doesn't need to say Legend. I think it should have a border though. And we're going to put that in there. And we're going to add in another neat line here. And let's just zoom in now here to sort of center our map. As you can see, Toronto works pretty well because it has this sort of gap here in the southeast, which lets us squeeze in our legends and a lot of map elements, so it's nice. Now, when we make our legend, we should obviously change these legend item titles, because you can see here TDSB operating day schools, these are the file names, but they're not very good looking as a layer name. So to do that, what we can do is right click each layer, go to properties, and under legend you can add in a label. So here we're going to add in school. And now I want to be clear here. So what we have here, each point represents a single school. So a lot of people, when they start making maps, they might say schools because these are schools. However, each dot represents a single school. So labeling them as schools is technically incorrect. Be careful for that. You know, when you label something, one point on the legend should represent one point on the map. So even though the layer shows schools, one point is a single school. Alright, here again, for lines, we have major road, and for our polygon layer, we have census tract. And again, we can just get away with saying census tract because we already know it's in Toronto here. And on the order of items in the legend, it should always be points, lines, polygons. Keep things nice and neat. So next item will be the north arrow. So again, you want to think of what is the purpose of the map. It's to show our data. So a lot of times people will choose, you know, a very fancy north arrow when they're just getting started. Don't do that. Stick with something simple that will just basically shows you what you need to see. Just adjust this to adjust this here. So we have our nice and simple north arrow. It doesn't take away anything from our map. Next, we'll insert our scale bar. Again, very simple. Properties. We can adjust it here. So if you're in the US, miles is fine. If you're in anywhere else in the world, basically, you want to switch to kilometers. Now here you can see division units. We can select kilometers, but you have to be careful because kilometers here is actually the American spelling with ERS. If you want to use the British or Canadian spelling, it'll be RES, or you can just switch to KM. You can apply, and here we have our scale bar. Now this, just by chance, happened to work out very well where it's 0, 5, and 10. A lot of times it will be something like, 13 kilometers, 7 kilometers, 6 kilometers. That doesn't look good because it's not a useful unit of measurement. No one's going to look at a map and say, gee, I wonder, how far away this is. 6 kilometers. Okay, I know, I understand that. Stick to something like 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers when you're making these maps. And again, you can just sort of pull it to adjust it to the whatever size you want. So here we have our basic map elements. Next we need our text. So for that, we are gonna pull in we're going to pull in some dynamic text, so we can put in the date that the map was produced, so we can just use current date for that. And here it's formatted, the format is short. You can also adjust this in a number of ways. So if we apply long, it'll change that for you. I'm just going to stick with short for now. So we can see we have day, month, and year. Next, we are going to add in the projection. So here, selecting coordinate system will give you this big block of text, and you don't really need everything. You just need this top line here. So again, we can double click on this, and we're going to look for this first forward slash and then the closing bracket here. So we just want this first block of text. Everything else we can delete. So we're going to delete that. We just have our first little blocks here, and you'll see that will be our coordinate system. And we can put that underneath here. Next will be the source data. So again, this, we can just select text. We'll put in source. This is all from Toronto Open Data. So move that down here. And lastly, the author. So by me. And with that, we have our first basic map, including all proper map elements. So again, very simple, but you really have to think of what your map will be used for. Again, if we are putting this in a report, we can leave out all this data and just put it in a caption. You know, we might want to make our legend larger if it's embedded in a page, because this might not be easily readable. So again, just really think of what your map is for. I hope that was helpful, and thank you for listening.